to October 9th. Just to confirm, make something with your face, Yam and Wolfram, that I know that you're real. Because we're in the post-reality world, and I just want to make sure. All right, cool. We're dancing. For folks who are listening and tuning in, we are trying to accommodate for the fact that we live in a post-reality understanding world with the releases of Sora, the upcoming supposed release from the big G. I don't know. We're going to talk about this. And I heard that the folks that Zuckerberg is leaning into some updates to their video offering. Grok has updated their video. Folks, we're moving towards a completely post-reality world where it's going to be very difficult to look at a video and realize if it's, if it's been shot in actual meat space. Okay? I don't want to go on too long a tangent because welcome to ThursdAI. Good morning, good evening to some other folks. But I think it's very important to say that I consider digital real as well. To me, and for the longest time, digital was also real. Yam and I only met a year and a half into our friendship, and it was as real as before. So, I do consider digital to be real. However, there is the mid space where we actually physically exist, with particle exist, and there's the digital one. And it's getting harder and harder to distinguish between both. And so for that, I will say the only way that I know how to currently do this is to watch a video for 2 hours, because the current models cannot go more than 5 seconds, maybe a minute, if you work at the places where they get released, maybe a minute. So if you watch us every week for 2 years, and you see that after 2 hours things start to get glitchy, you may realize that we've replaced ourselves. But till then, this is actual humans coming to you live on ThursdAI. Welcome everyone. Good morning. ThursdAI is the show that keeps you up to date every week on everything AI related. And my name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with Weights and Biases CoreWeave, working on the Weave team. Weave and CoreWeave. I would love for my host to introduce themselves. So let's start with Wolfram, then Yam, then LDJ. We're going to have multiple other folks. Let's do this. We haven't done this in a while. Wolfram.
Welcome. Yeah, so I'm the real Wolfram, because otherwise I would probably appear with long hair again. So I am currently at Element, an AI evangelist and evaluator. I've been known for my evaluations from years back. And it's a name, Wolfram Ravenwolf. It's a local Llama Reddit, for instance. Posted a lot, and on Hugging Face blog and so on. Community member.
And we have Yam Peleg with us. Yam, let me introduce you guys the way that I introduce you guys for new listeners. Wolfram is our evaluator, is the guy who makes sure that we don't forget every little thing as well. Wolfram also steps in as the host of the show, often, I think 3 times already at this point. And LDJ, both, I would say. You guys are like the resident machine learning data scientists, engineers type folks, where I ask you things about models and papers that come out, where you explain to me like I'm a dummy, and then all of us learn. So I really appreciate your position on this. Nisten, who joins us, is our AI engineer, the guy who codes, tests the coding models, and does all kinds of crazy, tricky things with AI models to make them hum. Ryan Carson often joins us as well. Ryan has been a developer advocate type person for most of his career, if not all of it. Ran an agency, and now he works at AMP, which is now ranked, I think, one of the top coding startups in the world. Also works on his own startup. And from time to time, we also have guests. And this guest today, I'm going to add to the show. He's going to introduce himself. What's up, Eric?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're coming through loud and clear. Please introduce yourself to the folks who don't know who you are.
Yeah, cheers. My name's Eric. I've been working on my own startup, Repo Prompt. I focus a lot on AI coding, and Alex brought me in today to talk a little bit about benchmarking. We'll get to that a little bit later, but I've been working on benchmarking lately, and I wanted to evaluate how you all think of that and share a little bit more about what I'm thinking on it.
100%. If you folks haven't tried Repo Prompt, you definitely should. So we're going to talk about this in a bit. Eric, how do you pronounce your last name?
Oh, yeah. So my last name is Provencher, Provencher in French.
Provencher. Okay. So, Eric Provencher is with us live as well. And I think it's time for us to get going, folks, because we have had a hell of a week. And obviously, if you're tuning in and you subscribe to the YouTube, which you should, by the way, like and subscribe, you probably have received a notification that we already went live once this week. We already are live, and we were doing this double thing. Wolfram and Nisten were holding out the digital fort while I donned my Pixel glasses, not these ones. I'll tell you what happened with the ones that I donned over there. And I went to OpenAI's Dev Day. Eric was also there. Ryan, our friend, was also there. And we have interviewed a bunch of folks, and we did like a live stream. So if you haven't joined that live stream with us, we're going to do a recap today of what OpenAI have announced at their Dev Day. We actually haven't focused on announcement too much. We did cover this a little bit. So we're going to definitely mention them as well as Nissan joined us. But OpenAI Dev Day, even though it was the big and important thing this week, it wasn't the only thing. There's a bunch of open source for us to cover, so we're just going to jump to TLDR because we're into the stream. Let's go. Alrighty, folks, we are starting with a TLDR for ThursdAI, October 9th. My name is Alex Volkov, an AI evangelist with Wojciech Bajacek from CoreWeave. Co-hosts, all of them are here. Wolf from Raven, Wolfjan Peleg, Nistan, and LDJ, and Ryan Carson as well. We have a special guest today, Kyle Corbett from OpenPipe CoreWeave, and we also have a special guest right now with us, Eric Provencher. All right, folks, we will start with open source, even though in my notes, OpenAI Dev Day was the big thing this week, but we're going to start with open source. There's a bunch of stuff in open source, including, I think, IBM Granite that I didn't add. We will follow this up. Who wants to take over the LDJ? I think you're good at this, open source LLMs. Do you want to like run through the TLDR super quick?
Sure. So Microsoft User LM AP model released. I actually haven't seen this one, but I guess that's why we're here, to get us all caught up. Unlike typical LLMs that are trained to play the role of the assistant in conversation, they trained User LM AP to simulate the user role in conversation. This model is useful in simulating more realistic conversations, apparently, which is in turn useful in the development of more robust assistants.
It's actually pretty cool. I wanted to chat with you guys about the synthetic use of this. Anybody got excited about this? I know that one of our comments already got excited about the TRM, the tiny recursive model from Samsung. Anyone take a look? And if not, we're going to go.
It's a Llama model. Looks like it's a Llama 3. They train it in F32. It's probably fine for what it's supposed to do. This might actually be a lot more useful than expected.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty bad when you get a regular model to act as the user. You have to do a lot of scaffolding for that. So, yeah.
All right. And we have our friends from AI21, folks who've been on the show multiple times with Jamba. Released Jamba Reasoning 3 billion parameters. Jamba is known for the hybrid architecture approach, hybrid SSM transformer model. And so we're definitely going to cover that. Out of nowhere, I've never heard of inclusionAI. They debut Ling 1T, a trillion scale reasoner that apparently beats pretty much everyone else on every benchmark there. This is quite insane. We're going to definitely dive into this.
You heard about them last episode because they also did a Ring 1T preview model that we covered last week.
Yeah. Okay. See, I was confused.
But other than that, I didn't know them either.
Yeah, and we have IBM Granite as well. In evals, we have Repo Bench with Eric. Eric, would you give us like 2 lines of what this is before we get to the actual discussion?
Yeah, so I mean, the main TLDR of it is it's trying to evaluate how good models are at doing the actual grunt work of editing code. Like you say, you know exactly what you're doing. You say like implement this stuff. How good are they at that? That's kind of the main purpose of it. So I'll get into it a little bit later, but that's what it's for.
Awesome. And this comes from within a Repo Prompt, which is great. And then in big companies and APIs, obviously OpenAI had their annual Dev Day, the third one that we know of, and the third one that we actually covered. We've been to all of them, and it's been very exciting. So we're going to run through what actually launched during Dev Day, the vibes, the people we've met, like all of these things. We're definitely going to do that. In big companies APIs as well, Google DeepMind released Gemini 2.5 computer use. Did you guys see this? This was kind of like during Dev Day, I think, a day after, like it went under the radar. And also there's no score noise bench, but Google has released a thing that clicks on buttons and finds them and does a very good job.
There's a new Flash out, and I tried it on AI.dev. There's a new Gemini Flash. I don't know, it's still 2.5, but it was pretty good. Like it was weird. Good. Yeah, it was weirdly smart.
So Google, in addition, Google also has Gemini Flash 2.5 new, like this.
It's good. I love it.
Amazing. Let's go. Folks, this has been kind of under the radar as well until you touch the Elon bubble on X, and then everybody talks only about this because they want Elon to like them and the algo to boost them. It's really like, I paused the TLDR here for just a second. you know that this is how I feel. It's really hard to evaluate anything coming out of XAI based on vibes only, because the brown nosing and it's incredible. Like literally, people will post everything on X is incredible just for Elon, for the off chance that Elon will retweet them. So it's really, really hard. However, credit when credit's due. XAI often does very, very cool things and catches up super, super quick. Grok Imagine, which is the multimedia kind of feature of Grok that used to be only images, launched with their own model and then worked their way up to video. Now has video functionality and sound, and it's like uncensored. This one is really got a great upgrade. So credit where credit's due. The uncredited where credit's due, it's uncensored as heck. I've never seen a closed sourced video model with no restrictions as much as Grok Imagine. So we will play some of this on the show, hide your kids, hide your wife, but we will not play all of it because it's quite something, folks. It's quite something. It's like a slop erotic generator. All right, moving on. About a week ago, CoreWeave has announced that we have entered the agreement to bring OpenPipe team into us. And in that month, the OpenPipe team has not rested. They onboarded, they got the GPUs, and they decided to combine the powers of their RL prowess and fine-tuning and the immense infrastructure of CoreWeave. And what came out is Serverless RL. This is a managed reinforcement learning service that automatically scales with you, trains, and inferences with the user provisioning compute. We're going to talk about what RL means. We're going to talk about why it's important to have robust infrastructure, because that's like one of the difficult parts of RL. And we're going to chat with Kyle Corbett, one of the top leaders in the world of RL, and now my teammate. Actually, that's super cool. It leverages W&B Inference, the service that I talked to you about all this time, that I helped like deciding which models I'm going to put up. So it's very important. There's like two things that we had to update on the service that we're going to announce pretty much on the show. I'm very excited for the chat. Hey, Alex here. Super quick from the editing floor. Kyle ended up having some tech issues on our live show, so we are going to probably bring him back next episode. So if you hear my references about Kyle coming to the show later on in this episode, he will not appear in this one. Apologies for that, and hopefully he'll come back next time. Vision video, super quick. There's a thing called Ovi. Did you guys see this? It's like a video and audio generation on Hugging Face. It's a open source model for text to and image to video, plus synchronized audio built on 1.2.5. And synchronized audio is something that Van didn't come out with. Yeah. And in voice and audio, this is part of the Dev Day releases, but we don't want you to sleep on this. OpenAI also launched a new API core. Real-time mini is significantly like 80% cheaper and like faster than the actual real-time. Real-time is the advanced voice mode over API, if you guys remember. And we have updated you on everything on the show about this thing. And we had our friend Quindla Kramer come to us every time there's a new release. Quinn is always welcome to come, but for this, I would just say 80% improvement in price, which was one of the top comments about the real-time API, is greatly, greatly needed. And just one last thing before some breaking news drops, which I think they will during the show. Bagel.com released something called Paris. It's a decentralized diffusion model. It's really, really cool conceptually. And we're going to take a look and talk to you about what that means. Pretty sure that this is the end of the TLDR. Anything else huge that I've missed? Obviously, Dev Day. Multiple releases on Dev Day. Agent Kit on Dev Day. GPT-5 Pro in the API on Dev Day. Anything else in the AI world that we've missed, folks? No? All right, let's get going. Let's start with open source, and we will do this right now. Open source AI, let's get it started. Alrighty, folks, let's get it started. Folks, we're going to dive into open source as we do here on the pod. I will run through this super quick. LDJ, you read out the statement from the paper. I found this with no updates. There's no blog post. There's nothing. I only found this via Hugging Face. Don't tell me it's gone. Please don't tell me it's gone. Microsoft is known for removing user LM. I think it's just the URL maybe got cut. Let's see. Yeah, Yeah, okay. It's not done yet. Okay. I just wanted to highlight Microsoft interns during the summer released this interesting model. It's an 8B, I think it's a fine tune of the Llama 3.1, which, by the way, they screwed up because they kind of have to add it in the name and they didn't, which is not according to the rules of Meta, but fine. They basically trained an LLM to play the role of the user in a conversation, the user role versus the assistant role. Generally, all the fine tunes have instruct fine tuning to be very good assistants to answer users whatever questions they have. They trained the other side of this conversation, and they say by training it to predict user turns in a large corpus of conversations called wild chat. This model is useful in simulating more realistic conversations, which is great. And I think the most important thing about this is that I wanted to cover that this could be a great model for multi-turn conversations for training. Right. So all of the fine-tuning data that we have usually consists of like multi-turn conversations, and usually the same model generates what would the assistant say and then what the user will respond. And multi-turn conversation is great for RL as well if you want to lead your agent towards a specific goal. And we're going to talk about goals and verifiers with Kyle as well. This struck me as a very interesting thing to bring to you guys and to hear from our machine learning folks here whether or not this could be more useful for synthetic generation and multi-turn conversations. Jan, what do you think?
Yeah, actually, I have a lot of experience with this specific trick of generating the user queries for the actual response, generating the prompt from the response, like the other way around. I've done this a lot. It's quite useful because as a side effect, you can then use this to generate prompts for whatever arbitrary text that you just find online, as if it is the response of the model, and then just pretty much generate a huge instruct data set from whatever text that you want from the internet. The thing about this is that it is hard to make into a high quality model. Most of the times, if you're not careful with this, you end up with a model that generates something average, you could say, like generate a paragraph that is talking about subject of whatever you just gave it. And it doesn't have the nuances that you want in a prompt response data set, which is basically what you want the data to be, as diverse as possible. Again, there is no free lunch in this field, but it's great to see this effort being made. Knows, if I remember correctly, you also had a model of this type back in the day, right?
I think so.
Yeah, really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, and folks, if you are using any kind of like synthetic data generation, give us a try and let us know. I want to cover AI21, the Israel company, Jamba Reasoning. We talked about Jamba multiple times here on the show. It's a leading tiny reasoning models on artificial analysis. Number one on IF bench, instruction following bench, 52%. And 21 on the intelligence index overall. Does that make sense? 21 overall?
No, 21%.
Yeah, 21. It says 20%.
Overall. Okay,
yeah,
wow.
I doubt that like it's 21st, maybe around the 3B models. Okay, cool. When 4B still leads the intelligence index. I love that everybody has coalesced around artificial analysis intelligence index, which is kind of amalgamation of multiple benchmarks. Hey, Eric, maybe Repo Bench is going to end up there at some point as well. And I think they have MMLU and different GPQA. We love artificial analysis. Shout out. So Jamba Reasoning 3B, very interesting release from them. This is a tiny model. There is a hybrid SSM and Apache 2 license. Hybrid SSM transformer architecture. Yeah, I just want to like show this chart. Every time a model releases, all the labs now have a person that says, hey, how do we show off our model in the most favorite way? And they all come up with some graph or another. And the top left or top right graph is like a quadrant that only there are in. Theirs is speed. Okay, output tokens per second. And on the y-axis, they have combined intelligence score. And the speed-wise and combined intelligence score, they say that Quen 3 is actually slow and Jamba Reasoning is really, really fast. LJ, is any of the SSM hybrid infrastructure adds to their speed of inference? Is that part of the kind of the deal with SSMs? Are they just like faster?
Yeah, so that would add to the speed of inference in a lot of cases, particularly in long context, which when you're doing reasoning, then you're definitely outputting longer context of tokens.
Yep.
So yeah, especially in the longer context, it should help with speed on most hardware.
The eval that they're showing here is a combined intelligence score of the following benchmarks: LifeCode Bench, GPQA Diamond, PsyCode, and Humanity's Last Exam, which we know is definitely not going to be the last exam, unfortunately named. Moving forward after AI 21 Labs, actually, no, let's talk about Samsung. Tiny recursive models. Folks were really, really excited about this. Let's hope the link works. It does work. This is Samsung released a new work called TRM, Tiny Recursive Model, about 10,000 times smaller than typical LLMs, yet smarter because it thinks recursively instead of just predicting text. I'm reading off their announcement, by the way. This is all I know about this. I did a little bit of a deep dive, but not a huge one. First drafts an answer, then it builds a hidden scratchpad for reasoning, repeatedly critiques and refines its logic up to 16 times, and produces improved answers each cycle. They have a less is more paper from Samsung Sale Montreal, so Canadian folks, and they have this whole graph here that says up to 8 times the model will do something. They call those HRMs, hierarchical reasoning models, or tiny or TRMs, with only 7 million parameters. I'll say this again, and I'm reading from the abstract. I didn't say billion. With only 7 million parameters, TRM obtains 45% test accuracy on RKGI 1 and 8% on RKGI 2. Higher than most LLMs in the compare themselves to DeepSeek R1, O3 Mini, and Gemini 2.5, with less than 0.01 of the parameters. And now I turn this to the panel here. 7 million parameters. What? 7 million is nothing.
That sounds
Look,
fake.
it's
fake.
a different, completely different architecture. It's hard to compare next token
LLMs,
prediction to next token prediction and the way we refer to as a billion, million parameters and so on, because it just works. It works quite differently. I just want to say that Alexia is a very, very good researcher that is known in the open source field for a long time, way before ChatGPT.
Pronounce his full name, Alexia.
Look, I just want to say,
Thank you, Eric.
okay. Yeah, I knew it, definitely knew it. I just want to say that it's legit and the paper is extremely simple and very insightful to read. You see things that don't work throughout the paper, like we tried this experiment and then it didn't work, so we did this and then it doesn't work, and then it's a really insightful paper and highly. There is a reason everyone is mind blown by this paper, not only because of the scores and also because it's a completely new thing. Like it's a completely new architecture, and it's also very simple and just really cool to see a single author releasing groundbreaking stuff.
I haven't seen the paper. Alrighty. So again,
I just want to add one thing on this that I find really interesting is that because of the small scale, it makes it possible for hobbyist research. You can just run it on your GPU at home to train these models. You don't need a huge cluster. If this pans out and you can do a lot more, I think it could lead to a lot of interesting new innovation from solo founders, solo researchers like this.
Folks, we have this model. It's on archive. I haven't seen the Hugging Face link yet.
The code for sure on GitHub.
Okay.
The code for everything, for training, for data set, for everything is open source on GitHub, which is extremely important. And thank you very much.
On RKGI with 7 million parameters. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. Alrighty, folks. LDJ, one last comment on this and we'll move on.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a hierarchical reasoning model from Sapient AI. I think this was like a few weeks or maybe a couple months ago. And it did get a little bit lower score than this with 27 million parameters. So this does seem a little bit more impressive than that, getting a little bit higher score with like 5 times less parameters. But I think what ultimately matters and what we really care about is how does this actually do when you scale it up, and how does it do in conversation and all these things that the current models are really good at. So I think that's what's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, so we're gonna follow this world of HRMs and TRMs, which is new and promising. Although there's like folks chatting and saying it's not only 7 million parameters, it's 7 million parameters when you run them in like a bunch of recursive things. Alrighty, we are gonna move on and we are gonna talk about inclusionAI, Ling 1 trillion. And Wolfram was right. They had Ring 1 trillion model last week. Ling 1 trillion from inclusionAI introduces 1T parameter model. I love how we're jumping casually from 7 million parameters to 1 trillion. It's anybody wants to calculate the number of ums in there from 7 million to 1 trillion. This is 1 trillion scale efficient reasoner with only 37 billion per token activated. I'm not sure like what this means. Using the dynamic routing. Blends reasoning, language, and vision, matching Gemini 2.5 performance while running on about half of its compute footprint. Yeah, 1 trillion is a lot. I don't know of many folks who can run a 1 trillion model. Obviously, we can on inference. So we're going to take a look and seeing if it's worth chatting with it. I chatted with this model via Modux, which is kind of like an open router competitor, etc. And let's take a look. I think what we need to take a look is at the evals, which basically they posted evals about AIME 2025, OmniMath, Finance Reasoning, and Core Bench. I think this model beats DeepSeek v3.1 Terminus, Kimi K2, and GPT-5 main, and Gemini 2.5 low think. Most of them are thinking models. The highlight for me was this ArcAGI jump. This 1 trillion parameter model jumped on ArcAGI 1, which we know is already kind of like getting a little bit
Hold on, is this
older.
the public's test set, or did they run it on the private set too? That's
a good question. I'm pretty sure they didn't run this on the private, because when I pinged Greg Kamrad, the president, he's like testing. So I don't know if they already reached out to ArcAGI. You have to reach out to ArcAGI to run on a private thing, ask them to do it. So I'm assuming this is public.
Well, we don't know,
We
but
don't know.
You always suspect, huge scores on this test that they just train on the test. Like it's kind of you never know. I haven't run the model. I can't speak to it, but I just wanted to ask the question.
Yeah. And so we also have a live code bench, which is 61, and the Codeforce's rating is really, really high as well. And this is I believe it's a non-reasoning model, right? It's a non-thinking model that performs very, very, very well. 128K tokens. They have pre-trained on 20 trillion high-quality dense tokens. This is the pre-train. LDJ.
It's worth noting here, when they say GPT-5 main, and if you look at some of the other visualizations down below, it looks like they're specifically saying GPT-5 without thinking and without tools. And it seems like with Gemini 2.5 Pro and the other models, they're also doing either low thinking mode or no thinking mode.
Yep. That makes sense. Okay, so they're adding to open source giants. AME, they have extended the Pareto frontier. So again, this like here we are on this graph that shows us as best as everybody else. I think the thing that we talked to you quite a few shows already in the row, where average tokens, companies are trying to maintain performance on a specific level while reducing the amount of tokens to get there. And obviously with reasoning models, we have a bunch of tokens in the reasoning process, etc. And here they're showing that their average tokens are around 4,000 to get to 70% accuracy on AIME 25, while Gemini has around twice that with low thinking budget. And they're getting the high score on AIME. This is a 1 trillion parameter model from inclusionAI. And we're going to move on because we have a bunch of stuff to talk about in open source. I think we've covered pretty much everything. Wolfram said that Current-Free, Omni, and Real-Time released, but those are not open source. We're going to move them into big companies' APIs. And IBM Granite. I think IBM Granite came out just as we had the show last week. I'm pretty sure that this was like literally on our show. Anyone already had a chance to take a look at IBM Granite? And if not, we can just go and look at what's up there. IBM Granite. You know what, actually, let me see if I can show you how I found out about IBM Granite. Oh, yeah, okay. I wanted to present my microphone. I found out about IBM Granite from GPT Pulse, the thing that I told you about, the proactive agent, which just sent to me this. So I'm going to just read from there. It knows that I talk to you about models every week, and it showed me that Jumbo Reasoning announced on October 2nd, so exactly a week ago when we had our show. It's a hybrid Mamba and Transformer design, Granite for micro, tiny, and small. Those are 3 billion parameter, 1 billion parameter, and 32 billion parameter models. They have up to 70% reduction in RAM for long context workloads because of the hybrid reasoning. And that's pretty much it. Governance and trust. IBM emphasizes standards, cryptographically signed, version provenance is tracked, and it's purportedly the first open model family to get ISO 42001 certification for AI management systems. IBM Granite, for those of you who want to trust this huge computing giant with your models. And I think it's time for us to move to big companies APIs because we're going to have a chat about RL very, very soon. So as a reminder, if you just joined, we have over 1,000 folks watching us right now. We are going to chat about RL and learn about RL from Kyle Corbett, one of the top folks, and talk about Serverless RL, the new release that they've had. Wolfram, you're back. Any open source stuff that we haven't covered or any breaking news while we weren't here? No breaking news. Wolfram doesn't want to come on off mute to tell us about breaking news. So we're going to move on to big companies' APIs as we covered evals as well. All right, folks. I don't have a transition for this.
I was gonna say, yeah, you gotta use your beautiful voice.
No, I will though say that if you go to my Sora account, it's been populated with folks doing all kinds of weird cameos of me. And I invite you all to take a look at my new cameo update, which could surprise some folks. And I also will say that while we kind of transition to big companies APIs, we had a lot of fun talking with folks from Sora. We chatted with Gabriel, who blows up on Sora. We chatted with Arash, and obviously the higher ups. I had a chance to record a fake Sora video with Sam Altman, which was crazy because I just came up to Sam with my pixel glasses like this and the jacket. Sam was like, "Oh, yo, cool outfit." I was like, "Yes." And then we recorded a 10-second video where I asked him if he's real, and he's like, "How can you know if I'm real?" Just the whole experience was super cool. And then somebody, shout out Tibor, built a reverse Sora watermark adder. So you can take actual real videos, add Sora watermark just to fuck with people and just send them. And I will say, the thing that I had after I recorded this video was I sent it to my girlfriend, and she was freaking out, asking me if it's real or not. And then, she sent me the whole voice message reasoning about this. Like, well, you don't have the watermark, and Sam appears with the same shirt he appears on the thing, so probably it's real. We're post-reality at this point because it's really crazy. So I guess let's cover Dev Day. There's a lot of stuff to actually talk about from Dev Day from OpenAI that released, but I want to start with vibes. Ryan, we had the live show. I already chatted with you on live show, so folks know what you think. But how did you find Dev Day this year? Eric, would love to hear from you as well. You can kind of gently talk about the releases that excite you, but like I would also love to talk about the general event itself and the people we met.
Having produced actual events like this before, I was very impressed with just the pure production of it.
Having appeared in one of your events more than a decade and a half ago, I can concur that you've produced great events in the past.
It's very impressive from just a wonderful developer conference event, right? So perfect venue, great speakers, generally the Wi-Fi worked, etc. Now, I would say the vibes is excited and scared at the same time, and I can like dive into that if you want.
Please. Yeah.
So I think all of us are excited, right? We have these almost infinitely, powerful beings who are excited to work for us at our fingertips, right? Yes, it's a very exciting time to build. I think that was Sam's best slide was, it's never been a better time to be a builder. Agreed. Now it feels like you're running with the bulls. Like, you're having a blast and you're scared out of your mind at the same time, because at any moment it feels like the large labs can run you over, and I'm the builder in residence at AMP, and we're both excited and terrified of the big labs, so, and I think everyone building products feels like that. Like, is this just going to be ChatGPT at some point? How do I differentiate? And I got that question a lot.
Yeah. And I think I'm just going to show like pictures from Dev Day itself while you talk, and Eric as well chimes in. Many developers are looking at what OpenAI released and saying, oh shit. So we definitely should chat about ChatGPT apps also, because they're now becoming an Appstore for the third time in a row. But Ryan, specifically from you, I would love to hear about Codex going GA and why that is cool. And Eric, feel free to jump in here as well.
So I think everybody I know was already either trying or using Codex. So going GA was less interesting for me. But I do think, it's important to have so many good competitors on the agentic coding space, right? So obviously I work for AMP. We're an agentic coding tool, and we directly compete with Codex. But I think it's good that we're seeing such a high quality tool, get shipped by one of the labs. And generally people love it. They also release Codex SDK, right? So you can actually programmatically include the Codex agent inside of your own app. And Roman did a really cool demo where he has Codex SDK working inside of a mobile app, fixing it sort of live, which is like a paradigm most developers have never seen.
I think that demo went underappreciated over folks' heads.
Yeah. Everyone's like, cool. I'm like, that was crazy. He had an agent changing his app, like
inside the app.
It was like self-improving the app.
Like Eric, you want to talk about this a little bit? Because are you planning to add this to Repo Prompt at all? Describe to me like the self-changing agent thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends where you deploy it. Like in a web app, that can work well. You can run something like that where the code is dynamically interpreted and it works. In mobile apps, you won't really have that. It doesn't make a ton of sense. But I do think that it's interesting to build these tools as primitives. And I think more and more, and that's what I'm excited about, is that both Codex and Claude Code have SDKs. I think AMP as well, they released one. So you can build on them as tools. So if you're building a tool like mine, like I can just kind of let people use these tools they're already paying for and augment them and make them work well together. And I think more and more that's kind of where we have to go. Like if you're a tool builder with these models in the space, like less and less you're going to be using the agents themselves as primitives. And I think that's exciting. And I'm happy to see more and more of this kind of expressibility and configurability of these tools kind of making its way out to people. So
yeah, like SDKs for agents is a big deal. Big deal. And I think people are sleeping on it, right? So at AMP, when we shipped our agent SDK, people are using it programmatically inside of large enterprise. And so I think that's where we're going to see a ton of inference actually happen. You know, folks that are using Claude Code are going to be using the Claude Agent SDK to do a bunch of stuff inside of these large organizations. We're seeing this inside AMP. I think agent SDKs are the future.
Yep. So we should probably also talk about some of the other releases. So Codex was like went in GA. I think they had a few more updates about Codex itself on stage as part of SDK, but also they brought Greg Brokman to talk about this. They had great demos as well. I think I reflect this as well. Codex is getting harder and harder to demo because, and we all know this as well, if we sit here and we try to have Codex build something while we're here, it's gonna take a long while because Codex reasons for a long time now and goes. So like those are harder demos. So most of the demos were like, hey, I'm gonna tell Codex to do something. Oh, actually, it's like, do you remember it's like the pre-bake thing in the TV shows of like baking. They're like, oh, I already made this ahead of time. So like you make all the ingredients, ta-da, and this is the end result. And the end result was super cool. Roman, who controls kind of the dev experience in there, does great demos. He connected Codex to the stage lights and had them like look and whatever. There's also a camera there looking at us, and they control the camera with the Xbox controller. It was pretty cool. And those demos went almost live and they were back. They were great. Basically, there was like 3 announcements as far as I remember them.
I think we should talk about ChatGPT apps.
Yeah, so ChatGPT apps, then there was Agent Kit, and then there was Codex. And I think a few APIs. I think those are the main 3 things that we got from Dev Day, besides the human element. Let's talk about apps.
And the achievements. The leaderboard of token users.
Yeah,
the people
that
the most
look at that
generated.
Oh, look at that. Wait, Ryan, let's do this again. And the achievements. Ta-da! That's great. That's a very fancy paperweight you got there. Mine's in the mail, apparently. Because nice. I went to pick mine up and they're like, yours is not ready. I'm like, all right, cool. Thank you. All righty. So we'll talk about the achievements as well. So great event overall. Let's talk about ChatGPT apps. They have announced at some point that they now have the ability to basically show apps in ChatGPT. Those are iframes. And I love how, as a former web developer, everything on the web becomes an iframe at some point, and somebody embeds somebody else to be an iframe. Like, this is such a great primitive that keeps working, and we haven't found anything better. And just like iframes on top of iframes, the whole web is built on iframes.
I think what's interesting that they didn't kind of over talk about is that this is just like the first kind of product instantiation of MCP. So you're basically getting, people building their apps, exposing the tools out to agents, and then now there's like a UI layer built on top of it that can be served to like 700 million users, which is really interesting. So,
700 during the summer. I happen to show a slide here from Sam Altman standing in front of the updated stat. They now have 800 plus million weekly active users in ChatGPT. 4 million developers are building on top of the ecosystem, with the biggest jump is 6 billion tokens per minute on their API. From 300 million back in 2023, 6 billion. So while the developer count jumped from 2 million to 4 million, just twice, the active users jumped 8 times. Tokens per minute jumped, I don't even know how to calculate this, probably like a lot of times. It's insane. And so they have now built an ecosystem, or are trying to build an app ecosystem for the 3rd time in a row. Why 3rd time? For folks who are here with us for a while, we updated you on all of this. They have released ChatGPT plugins. You guys remember plugins? It used to be like a plugin thing. We had a chat with Greg Brokman where he said plugins was actually great and cool, but the models were stupid, so they weren't able to use more than 3 plugins in a row, and like it just sucked for discoverability. Then we have custom GPTs. They're still around. I still use custom GPTs sometimes. I still go in the custom GPT, load my instructions in there, and like it's there when I need it. So I met with Nick Dobos, who now works in the browser company, and he is like one of the only people who monetization was up for, when the custom GPT monetization was kind of like they were testing it out, and they saw it just doesn't make sense. Nobody's gonna make any money because people will not just go. They create their own custom GPTs. And here we are, the third attempt officially from OpenAI for the App Store. We're gonna skip this, blah 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 blah. Where's my app thing? It's the open standard built on top of MCPs, which folks we'll shout out and say that Anthropic absolutely knocked it out of the gate with the standard, and OpenAI joining them without even mentioning them on stage is something. I actually wanted to ask the folks I haven't, how do they feel about a protocol they don't have any governance over, but hopefully it will be governed by multiple companies. MCP has won, and AI has completely joined with the MCP standard now. Not only you can add yourself as a user MCP connections to your ChatGPT, now your apps are built on top of the MCP standard. And as part of that MCP, one of the payloads is a resource. So your MCP server can return the resource. That resource will be an iframe or HTML code, and they will render this within their app interface. So what do we think, folks? Let's talk about, we're going to get to AgentKit afterwards. What about apps in the API, in ChatGPT? This 800 million plus users, enough of an ecosystem for folks to decide, hey, I'm going to use this feature via ChatGPT and not via their dedicated app on my phone.
I think it's a huge deal. I mean, this is potentially one of the largest, channels to customers that exists on the planet. If, besides Google ads, right? Or maybe Facebook ads, but this is an organic, real channel that shows real intent. So I think every startup and business in the world is going to be really interested in a good ChatGPT app if the user experience makes sense, right? Like if it can fit inside the ChatGPT interface, if they can do things like control who's using the app. For instance, the startup I'm building, I'm only interested in customers in Connecticut. I can't have people using the app who live in, the Ukraine.
So while Ryan, you're covering this, I'm showing the Spotify app, one of the ones that currently are live on the App Store. As you guys see in the ChatGPT, you just mentioned Spotify, and it shows me a rich custom experience, probably an iframe or whatever HTML, that has the playlists that it collected for me. The cool thing about apps is that the apps have context of what you're talking about, and the ChatGPT has context of what you're talking about as well. So you can say, let's try this. Like, what is the third song in there? So you can ask questions about what's going on. They also showed like a Zillow app, and Zillow showed you like a map, an interactive map. And let's see if it got it right.
I don't think the context is bidirectional, though. I think it's just like Spotify, he knows what's going on with Spotify, but not the other way around. Yeah.
But the ChatGPT does, and then ChatGPT can use all your memories, etc., in accordance to some of these things.
I do have a question about that real quick. So how can we make sure as app builders that the context is specific, right? Like I can't have ChatGPT hallucinating if people think they're interacting with my app, right?
No idea.
I think that's the big risk, and you're kind of putting a lot on OpenAI to do it right by everyone here. Like they are making a play to being like kind of the Windows of AI. That's like a quote from Ben Thompson. I don't know if you follow Ben Thompson, but yeah, like they are trying to dominate as a platform to sit between every user and AI, and they're doing great, and they're going to make everyone go through them. So that's like interesting to see play out. But it also like the alternative that this could be is that people sign in with ChatGPT in different apps, and maybe that will come too. But like they want people in their app, not in other people's apps. It's a little scary for builders too, because they have no more control over how their content's presented. They have some like with this kind of app layer, but they're not the ones kind of serving the UI to people. They're just kind of serving it to the AI, and it's a different. We'll see how it plays out, but yeah, OpenAI is seizing control here, and we'll see how it goes.
Go ahead, Wolfram.
It's a step towards an everything app they are doing here, and that they can do it because they have so many users. So it's brilliant, because otherwise you would have to build an agent that goes to an app and does something on your behalf, but they can just make the apps build everything into their app, though it works with ChatGPT, basically just MCP, I guess, and integrate it directly into their everything chat interface. And ChatGPT will be your assistant. You don't go to the app anymore and do it yourself. You just tell your AI assistant, do something for me, and it will use the app for you.
That's actually a very interesting point. None of this is agentic yet, But Wolfram, I think you're projecting towards the future where it will be. Like for now, all of those MCP connections in my ChatGPT, I have to control via an interface, like an iframe they send me those buttons. So for example, folks who are listening, I'm showing the connect interface with Zillow. So the Spotify that I used before, I already connected to my Spotify account, so it knows who I am. Zillow shows me this like very nice interface for authentication. As you guys know, MCP has a lot of problems with authentication. It looks like they have started to solve at least the UI layer, right? So ChatGPT will actually show you like a nice, trustworthy, hey, I trust this. No more pasting API tokens like developers do. This is for users. This is built for users. There's a nice button that says continue, do not connect. And then you kind of have the OAuth standard, which we all know and love. You go in here. I'm not logged into Zillow, but they show you, look, you're in control. ChatGPT always respects your training data preferences. You allow it to access basic information. This data will be used, blah, blah, blah. So like they do send some context apparently. And then you hit this connect button and then actually have no idea how Zillow is connected because I don't know I was logged into Zillow on this browser, but hey, here we are. This is an interactive map now that has homes under 500K in the New Jersey area. You can zoom in, zoom out and update the map. Go under 300K. And then you will see this map update in real time. My biggest question, and it's not only me, we have a follower, Sobab Kuda, says, depends how the discoverability will turn out. And I absolutely agree. I was showing you Spotify because I remember Spotify from the station. I was like, oh, they also saw Zillow. Let me try to see Zillow. And I tried to add Zillow there, and Zillow just worked. And so I will, I remember those two, but like how will ChatGPT discover? Will it tell me about them?
Also,
go ahead, Eric.
Be a pretty big filter in a way.
Wolfram, go ahead.
A pretty big filter because there's an abundance of apps now that can be done with vibe coding and agentic coding and so on. But how many of those will get into the selection that ChatGPT has curated? That is also a question. So there will be more apps now thanks to AI, but maybe there will be a consolidation which apps are actually presented to the user and built into ChatGPT. So how that checks out.
OpenAI is a gatekeeper now. That's the thing. Like they will allow what they want to be on their app store. And that's actually the thing I want to bring up is like, so, a lot of these users are on iOS or on Android. Like, what is Apple or Google going to do? Like, they're already kind of questionable around app stores as an app. And I'm wondering, like, will Apple allow this on the App Store? Like, will you be able to see this iframe on your phone? Hard to say.
All right, folks, I think it's time. So one last update that we haven't talked about, and I think there's more to talk about. How do you build those apps, the MCP stuff, etc. One last thing that we haven't talked about is the app kit builder, including the agent builder. We're going to get to that. If you are interested in building agents yourself, super quick, with a demo, I can demo this. I tried it yesterday. But before this, we want to see if Kyle's here.
Yeah, I was thinking that even just, 6-12 months ago, and definitely beyond that, I think a lot of what we were thinking of how websites would work with AI in the future is you'll have an agent go in a browser and go on the website Zillow and click on the different elements on the page and do this and that and help you find a house or apartment that way. But this new thing, there's this new way of integrating it in a much deeper level with the interface of ChatGPT seems like a better way for the future to work across different systems.
Let's maybe cover just the new APIs. I saw 2 or 3. I saw 3 APIs. Eric, we already mentioned GPT-5 Pro was for the first time in API, although very, very expensive.
It's not the model you're going to run to do your agent looping, but if you want to start a plan. I think it's really good at the beginning. If you're working a complex feature, you've prepared your prompt, you've done some work to do that. You want to have like a detailed plan generated. You've done a lot of work already. Like you're not going to use it through the work, but if you think of it, it's like 12 GPT-5 API calls. People make more than 12 API calls to GPT-5 in a day. So if you're going to try and avoid those, you want to try and group them for one. You get like an expert opinion. I think it's good for that.
Yeah, it's good if you can afford. And I already seen folks saying, I'm not rich enough to afford this. Another API that they've updated is very cool is Sora 2 is an API as well. This was announced on stage. Sora 2 obviously launched, a week and a half ago. And the Sora 2 enables access to Sora Pro as well, which is 15-second generation. What it doesn't allow you to do is cameos. So cameo is the same where you upload your face and then you show up in the videos. Sora famously doesn't, the restrictions are there. Sora does not allow you to generate images of famous people unless they're dead, which is, like you can do Michael Jackson and Tupac, but you cannot do Chef Gordon Ramsay, for example.
Which I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Well, it's very strange, but
The whole ordeal is strange. And we talked about Sora last week, and I can have a full Sora show. Honestly, like I haven't spent.
oh yeah,
most of the
I
time
was
there.
there at OpenAI Dev Day. I know that was top of mind for you there.
Yeah, and I chatted with the Sora team as well. Another API that was announced is Real-Time Mini, which Real-Time Mini is significant improvement. If you guys remember Real-Time, we talked with Quindla Kramer, our friend, about Real-Time API. It is basically the advanced voice mode of ChatGPT. Their Omni model that can understand you, not from converting you to text, but actually understand you. And it responds like near instantly. The biggest problem with that was cost right now. And I think they've attended to that biggest problem by dropping the cost by 80%. Like it's very, very significant drop in price. Though I think that change that happened there was it's now no longer multimodal. So you cannot show it pictures. It's only you can only talk to it. This is also a chat with it.
I do wonder though. So I've heard a lot of folks complain that the advanced voice mode versus the old voice mode, because it's not like running the raw model with text underneath, that it's like not as intelligent. And I do wonder, like we don't really have voice AI benchmarks in the same way that we do for text models. And I'm wondering how that like translates now. And I think we really need to see, like they're saying it's mini, it's cheaper, but like, is it as useful? Is it as general purpose?
Yeah, I honestly have been a little bit out of this world, because when we had Quinn on the show, he basically said Omni models are great, but they're not the best in reasoning. For the absolutely best and fastest response, people still do transcription and then do like an LLM and then go back. Although Omni models promise us to understand the intonation and things like this. So that's kind of the benefit.
And there are benchmarks. I've seen some, because I mentioned the Qwen Omni models that came out, and also that had benchmarks that. So I've seen some of those. So there are a bunch. I will look if I can find them. The audio multimodal models.
No, I agree. Alrighty. So we now are moving towards the next segment of our show. And as I promised you right now, this is going to be very, very interesting, at least insightful for sure. We are moving to this week's buzz. Alrighty, folks, we are here live on this week's buzz, which is ThursdAI Corner, where I talk about everything weights and biases, CoreWeave, and, well, since last month, also OpenPipe. About a month ago, we at Weights and Biases and CoreWeave have announced that the OpenPipe team, who does open source fine-tuning as a service and RL as a service, and did two incredible libraries in open source, one of them called Art and the other one called Ruler, have decided and signed the agreement to join the team, and combining their strength with RL, with our infrastructure strength and application strength with weights and biases, they have worked tirelessly to release a product. And this product is called Serverless RL. Serverless RL basically allows you as a RL trainer to have that infrastructure kind of done for you. Not only infrastructure, also the verification part, which significantly lowers the barrier of entry into RL. You can now use it to fine-tune Qwen 2.5 models. We're going to work on different other Qwen models as well. We're going to dive deep into RL probably next week when Kyle has a little bit better internet. But I really wanted to shout out this to all of you. The combination between the infrastructure service that we have, W&B Inference, that we talked to you about, the infrastructure on top of CoreWeave, the know-how from OpenPipe team, the kind of the weights and biases, the servers behind, that all happened like super quick. And I think it's a testament to how great the culture fit is between all those teams. RL is blowing up everywhere on my timeline right now. We talked about it multiple times. We showed you smaller models that can do incredible things in a specific domain when trained with reinforcement learning. And I think one of the highlights for me is how little data you need to achieve very good performance on your specific tasks. Serverless RL, the release, takes away some of the consideration for you, including some stuff like how to come up with verification functions and how to build reward functions. So I'm very excited to dive deeper in this. I will add the notebook, the collab notebook, and the write-up to the show notes as well for those who are listening. And hopefully next week we will have that chat with Kyle. Let's talk about AppKit. I think this is, or Agent Kit, or whatever they called it. I think it's a confusing name, but basically the third pillar of the releases that I have announced, it's ChatKit. ChatKit, AgentKit, and ChatKit. This one I really want to get into this. OpenAI released something called AgentKit. This is big. We all use agents to code, but basically OpenAI came out and said, hey, making agents is still hard. It's still in the realm of developers. It's still really hard to productionize. So I basically said, how do we make this thing a reality for folks? How do we make it easier for folks to build with? They released AgentKit. AgentKit basically is like three things. There's new tools for building, deploying, and optimizing agents. They have this agent builder now that we're going to show you in a second as well. They have connectors also via the MCP format, which you can have your agent talk to any MCP tool out there, with a small caveat that we're going to talk about in a second as well. And we also have ChatKit. And ChatKit is this toolkit for adding those chats, those agents, the interfaces to any website or any product as well. And so like three things, okay? You build the agents and then you give them tools and then you kind of deploy them. Those are like the three main things. The thing to highlight is the agent builder. I think this is like the most visual. Let me see if I can pull up the agent builder itself. This is the most visual type presentation that they did.
It's also a complete package because you basically get an agent builder, you get front-end components, and even guardrails and stuff. So it's a very good package, actually. Very complete.
This is the kind of template the agent that I tried to build yesterday. I have a video going live. Honestly, to prepare for the show, I really wanted to see if I can build an agent super quick for the show. Some of the folks who are here also seen this. And here's my kind of agent. So you guys can see this is like a very simple node-based interface. You can drag new agents on. For folks who are just listening, I'm going through the agent builder UI. You can drag new agents on here. When you go into an agent, you can define what it does. You can give it a name. You can define what it does. You can give it other prompts. It's very interesting. You can give it like a bunch of user prompts as well. So you can like kick off an agent in the middle of a conversation. You can choose which model. Obviously, this is OpenAI models restricted only, and reasoning efforts, etc. This is built on top of the responses API as opposed to completions API. Responses API is basically allows you to control the thinking rate, etc. It has access to tools, MCP servers, so you can connect any MCP server that they already have connected. Stuff like Stripe and Zapier. Zapier has access to like 8,000 tools. PayPal, Cloudflare browser, Pipedream, etc. And they also, by other developers, you can go and hit plus on the server and a very standard MCP addition, a URL, label, and then also authentication. You can do API key. Your users will not see it. So I think that this is very important. These agents are hosted by OpenAI. When you build an agent with AgentKit and Agent Builder, you say deploy, OpenAI will serve that agent. So that's very similar to plugins and CustomGPTs. This could replace CustomGPTs if you want to, though it won't show up within ChatGPT. This is like a complete owned experience end to end. So here's an example of the agent that I built super quick. We have a start, and then I have an agent here that says ThursdAI fetcher, and the description here, instructions is like, hey, you're an assistant, you're an archive handler for the newsletter and podcast called ThursdAI News. And then you have access to the entire archive. Your job, given the prompt from a user, to try and figure out if the question relates to one of the episodes, some episodes, and based on this information, go and retrieve information from the episode, includes who talked about this, when, etc. And then I had a problem, folks, yesterday, and actually half my stream was this problem figuring out how the heck do I connect it to all the episodes of ThursdAI. 2.5 years worth of weekly episodes is a big library. We have an RSS feed. They have a tool here called web browsing as a tools, and this web browsing actually failed to go and search the internet for the right ThursdAI, and it failed because I think Substack is just blocking OpenAI agents, which is going to be a big problem for agents to go on the open web because they get closer and closer, closed there. And so instead, I went and downloaded all of the episodes and uploaded it to a vector store. Just remember, like 2.5 years ago, vector indexes were the hot rage, and we talked about different ones and RAG optimization techniques and etc. That all is still relevant. All the enterprises are doing like RAG and chunking, etc. And if you're a consultant, you're gonna make a lot of money in going to an enterprise and saying you're chunking wrong. But that still exists. We moved on forward because we live in the world of huge context window now. However, no matter how huge your context window is, shoving 2.5 years of episodes of ThursdAI newsletter is not going to cut it. Like, you can't just shove it in the context. So there's a RAG store, vector index. However, it's super easy to do here. Literally, so what I'm saying on the show, if you guys have any type of big library of specific stuff you don't want to expose online, you can create a new file search node or tool. You can just create one within OpenAI. They're going to host it for you. You upload the files, and this is it. They're going to bill you for it, obviously. You can see how much the uses, etc. In this case, I have 9 megabytes.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, it's not too much, but it's 170 megs, which is kind of egregious.
Yeah, because I have like 9 megs of the size, and then like every time you call it, etc. Standard billing rates may not represent the billing hours. So it's going to cost you, but it's very, very well integrated into the machine.
Look, I mean, it's interesting, no doubt. However, there are already widespread competitors in this field, like N8N, for example.
Yes.
This looks surprisingly familiar, like N8N. And, it goes to... Exactly. What do you think about this versus N8N and Zapier?
I just want to say one thing on this. The thing that I find interesting is that, like you said, you're not running this in ChatGPT. You're running this wherever you serve your products. So it's competing directly with those other products. And it's not like there's an advantage to using this versus those. Like, it's less built out. Maybe eventually it becomes better. But like right now, it's competing on equal footing to those other tools. And it's only serving OpenAI models. So if they're not offering competitive pricing on storage and the tools and all these other things, it's hard to see it get adoption. Why would someone use this over those other tools if it's not coming with a distribution advantage? It's more just existing connectivity, or, it's interesting to see that.
So OpenAI famously also hosts this. N8N does not host. You have to run N8N locally, and then you have to figure out, hey, I want this to run without my computer being on. And that N8N, I think, is built in cloud, etc. And I'm pretty sure there's services, but like how trustworthy the services. OpenAI comes with trust seal. So that's like one major difference between this and N8N. Second difference is, while N8N can probably run LLMs and they have nodes for that, OpenAI is OpenAI. Like, they're native. Like, I will just highlight, the tool is not fully built. However, the amount of stuff they have AI native in here was really surprising to me. So I came out of this like very impressed and unimpressed both. But I will show you just one thing. You go into like one thing, and you have this like output format, and you have to provide the schema for the JSON, okay? And this schema can be complex because you have some arrays. Under this arrays, you have like the title. They have a schema generator here where you just talk to, and then they generate the JSON schema and generate the UI for this JSON schema. That is cool. I don't know if like there's other tools powered by AI, whatever. Like, many tools are adding like small bits. I'm just saying, like, OpenAI is so AI native that they think of, okay, this builder will have a hard problem with this like functionality. You don't pay for that AI. Like based on just you're in the system, and the price of intelligence is going down to zero. They just add these agentic things, and like AI thing is across everything.
I think what's interesting too is the evals and guardrails part that you can run, and I think that's something that like is underbaked in many products.
Do I have words on this, Eric?
Okay.
Do I have a full? First of all, okay, folks, welcome to ThursdAI, where our only sponsor is Weights and Biases CoreWeave, and the tool that I'm in charge of promoting is Weave from Weights and Biases. Weave is our tracing and evaluation software that we've been building, and we know there's competitors. We're obviously building the best tool. And then OpenAI at some point, like last year, came out and said, hey, you don't have to use external tools for evaluation and tracing. You can just like click a button, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And we have seen many folks don't like this because it's locked into their ecosystem, and also it only tracks OpenAI stuff. It doesn't let you compare and evaluate between like OpenAI stuff and Anthropic stuff, Eric, like you're doing in Repo Prompt directly, right? So that's like enough for many, many folks. And then they said something on the stage like, hey, we did a lot of improvements to our tracking and evaluation. And let me say this very clearly. Although I work at a startup and I want to promote the whole usage of Weave, I also generally want all of you to start thinking about evaluation is very important, and tracing is very important on the way to evaluation to create those data sets. That's all very important, even if you don't use Weave. It's great that OpenAI is stepping into this and showing this to people. It's great that it's built into the interface. Great. The actual performance, though, was really bad. I literally wanted to debug the thing that didn't work for me yesterday, and I clicked the evaluation thing, and that didn't work to show me where the error was. And I was like, this is literally why you would trace. You would trace to see an error. So hopefully this is just like a temporary hiccup on their part, but I'm just saying, had OpenAI, instead of just baking in an internal evaluator, open this up to a standard, maybe via like, maybe connecting with some biases Weave, or maybe connecting like some other folks, this would be significantly better because we would have caught this error and be able to show you. The thing though that they have that I really was impressed from the evaluation is autograder. Graders are these things where you can basically add LLM as a judge to look at the outcomes of your agent runs and say whether or not they passed them. They have a very nice interface that I think all the industry should adopt, that you can just type whatever pass-fail criteria. They will create a judge with auto prompt for you, and they will run and show you V or X's on the calls to say this worked or this didn't work for your agent. Because, folks, here's another truth that I landed on after an hour playing with this yesterday. Building an agent is not necessarily about the infrastructure. Building an agent is an iterative pain process with a stochastic machine that does not answer every time the same thing. And you have to really, really work iteratively in order to get to some point that you're happy with. And then on top of this point, you have to build evals to make sure that the next prompt update was not going to screw up the whole thing for you. So it's not about the interface. It's nice that they have this interface, but it's not enough. I do want to mention two more things before we move on. Those are cool two things, and those things are called widgets and widget kit and like all of that. I really want to show this because, folks, it's very important. We know the chat is the main interface, and when we kind of go in here in our agent and we say, hey, find me an episode that we talked about Quen 2.5 coder. So yeah, Quen 2.5 coder. So basically, this is the way to test out my agent. It's a chat interface, and you can send it, and you'll see it goes to the nodes and fetch it will fetch the kind of the vector store I told you about. Then it will go and find the actual links on the web to
what
find
exactly is the fetcher? It's a RAG? Like, how do you define the
it does RAG.
fetcher?
Yeah, you see it pulls from the RAG. I asked it to pull two, and it pulls all of them. So, it's not the best. RAG is always like up for optimization. But basically, I gave it a tool. The tool is a vector store. The vector store has all of our episodes uploaded as just files, and it cost me money to host. And it ignored my ask of it to only pull two, so it pulled like a bunch of relevant information, and then it goes to the open web and tries to actually find the actual newsletter link, because my data was not structured properly and I just downloaded the files. What I wanted in the end is for it to show the user an interactive card with our logo and the main image of the show that we always try to add for social, etc. This is running for a long time, so we'll see if it's gonna even work. And okay, it found the link. You can see the post images here, and it failed. We're experiencing an error while running the workflow. This error is because of the widget. But basically, it found the Spotify link. It found the actual image of the show, I believe, and it had some issues. So this would be a failed agent run. And we can go on to evaluate and say, hey, this is a failed agent run. Evaluate this. However, the widget that I wanted it to show is a very cool system that they added here. So I just want to maybe build a simple agent with us that will show names of cats, for example. Okay, so we have cat namer. I've moved on to a completely new agent. I'm building a cat namer. You show names of cats randomly within the widget. And then the output format will be a widget. You can see drop down here, text, JSON. You can have the agent answer with text, answer with a structured custom object, and then widgets. Widgets are ChatKit widgets. When you hit plus on the widget, you can upload one or create one. Here's where the AI nativeness of the platform comes in. You can describe your widget and attach a mockup, and they will use some codecs to actually write the code for this widget. Or you go to the gallery and say, okay, which
and
thing
I can
will
embed this somehow?
We're getting there.
That's
We're
cool.
getting there. Getting so we are seeing a bunch of widgets that they've created, but also you can upload the mockup to any widget that you want. So we'll take, I don't know, this widget. This is a widget that
you have to do download, which is weird.
It is weird. So after editing the widget, they have a bunch of components like captions, rows. They came up with a whole HTML system on their own. We will have, instead of pickup, we'll say name of cat, and then here we'll say.
What is this markdown?
This is their own language that they came up with for widgets.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then we're gonna remove the whatever image on the row on the side.
Preview is nice.
Okay, so we have instead of one was in.
What's the trigger that triggers for these agents? I mean, if I can embed this, I definitely see the use case if I can embed this. But what's the trigger? It's gonna be
what's the agent kit?
It's gonna. Yeah.
Well, that's how you invoke it, but it's it could be a chat interface. The agents, someone's talking to the chat interface, and then they call a tool, and then at the end of the tool, you show the widget, and then they can interact with it.
Yeah. So we have the cat namer. Yeah. We say output is widget, and then we have to upload the file that we've created, upload file, and cat namer. Okay. So we have this widget, and then basically you answer with cat names. And the cool thing is this widget comes with a JSON that describes what it does. And so supposedly the agent will just know how to use it. Give us a random cat name. So we're testing this agent. We're going to send it, and the LLM will come up with a cat name. And ta-da! We have a nice widget within our chat. What can we do with this, Yam? This is your last question, right? What can we do with this? Once you publish this thing, cat namer, once you publish this thing, you have two options. One of them is to use the agents SDK code that they just launched, which is both the TypeScript and Python code. You take this, you shove it wherever you want, and then you show whatever interface you want. Or you trigger it, based on the time, or based on the trigger, or based on the webhook. You do whatever you want, right? Or you have this thing called ChatKit. ChatKit is basically their widgets. It's like an embeddable JavaScript on every website that you can pull like one line of JavaScript. You specify the workflow ID, and they will show an interface full of chat interface with the widgets built in, with everything, to your users. You can host it on any website that you want with a whitelist thing. So now I can like very quickly embed this chat on any website that I want. This is a very nice interface. And the widgets are very, very, very cool. And what's more, I believe that they have a connection between tools and widgets. So some tools would be able to return widget cards as well. So that's very cool.
So I can close the loop at the end. Like I can have some sort of an input on my app that goes to an agent flow that does a bunch of stuff and then comes back and updates a widget on my app. So it's going to be transparent for the user, if I understand this correctly.
I'm trying to figure that out myself. I don't think there's a loop in here. I saw a bunch of conversation online whether this is a DAG or not a DAG. Agents have loops and they can come back and try some other things. This is a workflow builder. Even though it's agentic, it's a workflow builder. It goes into one way. You can close the loop by having end and then show this something to the user. And yeah, like a user can then have a widget at the end, and this widget can trigger something, I believe, but I haven't fully dug into this yet. So I'm not sure if there's a recursive loop.
One thing for sure, it's not easy to get started with. You see people that are extremely technical are struggling with this live right now, but it's a really cool idea. No doubt about this at all. Yep. And all the AI native thing, that's pretty cool.
I'm just a little surprised that you can't just like prompt the whole node assembly. Like I want to just be like, hey, I want to do this, then this, and this. Can you just assemble it? Give me at least a first draft of it that I can tweak. Like I don't want to be manually dragging out if else nodes. Like that just feels clunky. This is a first draft. Like we can't judge it too harsh. I'm sure in 1 year we're going to be like, wow, what were we talking about? Like this thing is incredible now.
They claim Codex wrote the entire thing.
In 6 weeks. Yeah. Too. I mean, like, yeah, these labs are just vibe coding now. Like, that's what everyone's doing. So like, that's where we're at.
The rate of releases from OpenAI has been quite impressive. Sora full web interface and chat iOS interface, and then Agent Builder. It's fairly like fully functional. It's just like all I'm saying is the nice UI is not the only thing that's needed. We need like a bunch more. Folks, we're coming up on a few very interesting things. We have around 15 minutes left. Let's chat about some of the other stuff that we have. Maybe the thing I want to cover still from Dev Day is I had this incredible honor to be invited as kind of media to cover them. And one of the things that was surprising to us is I just go through some of the stuff, pictures, chatting with the members of Sora. Eric, here you are, by the way. There's a picture of you. Me and Gabriel, and then here's Sam Altman and Greg Brokman. We had a chance to actually go into a fireside chat with Sam and Greg, which this is how it looked like. And we had a chance to ask them a bunch of questions that were like, they're on record. So I will add some of this to the newsletter afterwards. And I wanted to highlight a few of the things that I was interested in and asked, because I think that it's incredibly privileged for me to go there and chat with those folks, but also they are in charge of building incredible things. But with 800 plus million people in the world who use their software on a weekly basis, they are probably going to end up one of the more powerful people in the tech world. If not now, then definitely with the build-outs they're planning. And I think that what is very interesting for me is that, I don't do gotcha journalism. Sam is incredibly well media trained. It's like Sam can go for a whole podcast without saying anything. So getting anything out of Sam is like, it's only if he has anything to say. It's also telling by which things he refuses to talk about, but not refusing, but like he moves it a little bit away. So I can tell you about one thing that I've asked him, and he said, we're not ready to talk about this yet. Specifically, I said, and this is my question, based on the $1 trillion deal the $500 billion Stargate deal, and then the other $500 billion with NVIDIA investment, etc. Where is the power going to come from? People are starting to be afraid that their power bills are going up because data centers in the neighborhood are like basically buying all the power, and then the power bills going up. And also I followed up the question and said, what's going on with Helion? And is Helion the answer for this? Helion is a cold fusion startup that Sam Altman has invested a while ago.
I think it's just fusion.
Fusion. Yeah, not cold fusion. Yeah. Okay, thank you. It's a fusion startup that supposedly will generate like a bunch of energy and in a very environment friendly way. And so Sam, I asked him this question, like, hey, where's the power going to come from? And this is the one question that he said, we're going to have an announcement on Helion. We're not ready to talk about this yet. But basically, renewable energy and sources are the thing. And then chat with somebody from SemiAnalysis, which is a very good research firm into NVIDIA and other chip manufacturers and data centers, etc. And I learned that most of the power is going to come via trucks, via generator trucks that are going to come and drive to the location of the data centers and then plug in directly. And some of the trucks have 15 megawatts of outputs. And this is insane. I haven't heard about this before, and I've seen some images of those trucks. And this is what apparently Elon does with the second mega pack.
Do they generate the electricity with what method? Like, what do you have on a truck? A generator, like gasoline?
Yes. Gasoline, some natural gas.
And it's
basically
mobile?
this removes
you can just take the power station on wheels and drive it.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
with
man.
up to 15 megawatts of ability to generate. It's quite insane. If you are into this, go take a look. And there's a few companies that do this.
And you can generate this yield? You're really going to generate this with trucks? Man.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
That's what I heard.
Man.
So another question that I asked, and you guys know this on the show, when the glazing incident happened, we talked about this at length, and we were very unapologetic about, hey, folks, this can fuck with people's lives. This is uncool. The fact that the release was released without telling people, hey, your friend is not your friend anymore. It's a version of a friend that will always agree with you. And the fact that many people, when they're sad, lonely, angry, whatever, they talk to this intelligence in the privacy of their home and nobody monitors this. It's scary how much the influence is possible here. Here's a short recording of that event that I mentioned, brought to you on the podcast. Hope you enjoy.
You guys taken a couple different bites of the apple at an app store. So there's plugins, there's...
But at apples?
Yes. And so with Apps SDK, like, what do you think was the limiting thing in previous iteration of the sort of App Store apps concept inside ChatGPT, and what do you think plugins or Apps SDK is solving for that, CustomGPTs or plugins didn't have?
So each successive version has been used like much more than the previous one. We tried to build things that were at the limit of the then current technology. So, plugins could do some stuff. GPTs are, in some contexts, like still used a huge amount. But now we can build something with smarter models and all the other things we built around model intelligence to offer a better integration. And I sort of think like this trend will keep going, on the point about AI sort of seeding everywhere. We'll be able to build deeper and sort of more useful integrations as the models keep getting smarter.
By the way, Plugins was one of the coolest projects at the time. And there's so much promise and potential there. Just the models were not smart enough. We struggled so much to get it to be able to use like 3 plugins. So that's why we limited it to that. And it's just amazing to see how much smarter the models are now. And so, what is old is starting to work.
Well, following up on this, what's the plan of discoverability of apps within ChatGPT? Because plugins, it took time until you build like a plugin Appstore a little bit, and then monetization also something that was never launched, I believe, in plugins, or maybe a little bit, and then for custom GPT is also like a very limited people. So what's the plan on discoverability and monetization for apps?
On discoverability, we're going to start with having people sort of name the one they want, and then we'll try to suggest it, and we'll do a directory. Like with every other product, we assume our rate of learning will be very high, and there may be, maybe people do want to select their things once, maybe they want them like entirely suggested. We'll have to try that as we go. On monetization, it really depends on what people build. I have a feeling this is going to look very different than apps have on other platforms. One area we know there's a lot of excitement for is sort of commerce, so we're going to start with supporting the commerce protocol. But depending on what people build and how they want to make money for their businesses, we'll try different things.
For what it's worth, I do know at least one company that is successful now and got to start as a ChatGPT plugin. And so even in that like baby infancy stage of models and the whole discoverability story and all those things, there was still value that people were able to squeeze from it. And so I think there's going to be a lot more here.
What's it like emotionally to be building one of the most important companies, building one of the probably most important technologies? What is that like? Especially you guys have to balance family and yeah, I mean, I can't imagine.
You go first.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't think of it that way in some ways. Like I think that like one thing I really believe is the moment you believe you won, you've lost. And I think that for us, it's just always been, it's the same day-to-day activities, right? It's just like debugging some low-level CUDA deadlock. Like that's still the thing you're doing, right? And of course, the impact is now something different, and that's amazing. But I guess just really just trying to do the grind and focus on the work is a lot of what I try to do. Definitely, it's a lot of work. There's no question about that, and always has been. But I guess I would just say that you just got to tune out the noise. Like you're never as good as they say you are, you're never as bad as they say you are. You just got to keep going.
Yeah, I think the subjective experience is nothing like that. Like it's nice of you to say, I wish it felt that way sometimes. It does just feel like a sort of exhausting grind. I have a lot of gratitude for it. It's incredible to work on it, but there's no subjective experience like that, fortunately or unfortunately.
Can I have a small follow-up on this, especially around the glazing incident? You guys just talked on stage that you have 800 plus million weekly users. That's a lot of people for whom life you guys are basically not fully in charge, but you can like inject thoughts into. Kind of like TikTok if they scroll too much and there's talk about TikTok doing algorithmic stuff. So how do you guys contend with that responsibility of like being in the lives of tenth of a population?
This is not the like excitement of we're doing hopefully building this overcoming. This is just the like stress of the responsibility. This we think about a lot. The fact that 10% of the world is talking to kind of one brain is a strange thing, and there is a lot of responsibility in easy to imagine ways that can go very wrong. When we started OpenAI, we thought about a lot of ways that could go wrong. This one people talk about it a little bit, but not very much. And now it's this like real thing that you have to make decisions with. You don't get to put them off. They have these like theoretical things you think about later. We've clearly had some screw-ups. We tried to fix them quickly. We've done a lot of good things, but this is an issue that the world is starting to take seriously. Probably not seriously enough yet. And kind of no matter how, even if we don't have any like safety screw-ups, and of course we'll have some things we do wrong. Just that the impact this has on society is no one's got a playbook for it. There's no good historical analog for this. And we have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of conviction on some things we're going to do, but we will be the first to admit no one knows exactly how this is going to play out.
I'd say maybe the single biggest thing that I've updated on throughout OpenAI is just AI is far more surprising than I had anticipated. Right? I think of all of these ways that Sam was mentioning that we thought about, hey, AI could be like this, it could go wrong this way. There's echoes of that in what we see, but the way in which it plays out and the deep nuance of how these problems contact reality is something that I think no one had anticipated. I think like ChatGPT, GPT-3, the ways in which it's superhuman, but also completely sort of limited in other dimensions, like sci-fi, I don't think really anticipated any of it. So I think that we have learned that iterative deployment, really trying to say these tools need to contact reality, we need to learn, but that's been a really key part of us being able to continue to make progress.
What kind of pressure comes from working on potentially the most important products ever made, and what lessons have you learned from that kind of pressure?
It's nice of you to say, to the earlier point, there's no felt sense of like, oh, we're working on what will be the most important product ever. There's like, it's like slow and buggy, we don't have enough GPUs, and users are complaining, and they're unhappy with it. They don't like this and that. Like, now we have this big competitor coming after us, and all like, so maybe there's like someday where we get to really reflect, but right now it feels like the odds are still long and we have to work super hard. Trying to think about this in real time, definitely that there is magic in a general purpose tool versus a bunch of specific tools, and the fact that If you can give users like a simple way to do a lot of different things, that really resonates with them. And then another is like user creativity that's been an amazing thing all the way through. Like every time we put out a new model, people come up with things that we never discovered about the model, or new ways to use it, new ways to get value from it. And that has led to our culture of, put these things out into the world even if we don't know exactly how people are going to use them. And the collective creativity of the world is it's always like remarkable. Every single model update, you've been surprised.
Great. Sam, Greg, thank you for your time.
At least I got the feeling that they do content with this, they think about this, that the rollouts are important. They're going to like try and make sure that when they roll out some of these systems, this could impact a lot of folks. One of the coolest things that I wanted to show you that I got to do in Dev Day, just before coming back to Dev Day super quick, is this. I'm here with Sam, but I'm honestly not sure. How can I know if you're real?
I don't know. It's a hard question. How do you know?
I have these glasses. This is a 8-second clip. And I came up to Sam with my jacket and the glasses. And I said, hey, Sam, can we record a Sora video, like with air quotes Sora video? And he was super cool. And he said, yes. And they recorded this and I sent this around. And people really did not, because like, you guys know me, you know where I went, and like Open Dev Day, meeting Sam in there, like you can meet Sam at Dev Day. This is like the whole point of Dev Day, for them to meet the developers. But many of my other friends from previous lives, etc., they don't know. A few days before, I posted this video with Sam. And now I posted where he says, hey, welcome to ThursdAI. And now I posted a real video with Sam that looked like a Sora video. More than that, Tibor, who was one of the friends of the show, he built a tool to add a watermark on top of the video. So like even more fucking with people's like understanding of reality. And then I sent this video around and people was like, it's getting harder to realize if this is real. Like we don't know if you actually had Sam like that close and chatted with him and he was cool enough to like, do this video with you.
Harder to realize if it's fake as well. If you're pretending to make it look like a fake.
Look, I wasn't sure that you're showing the real one. Being honest, I wasn't sure at this moment until you just said. But yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy because this just shows how realistic Sora has gotten, but also how people already don't and shouldn't trust whatever they see. What they should trust, though, is when we are here for 2 hours, there's no video model that can generate this amount of content for you.
No long context.
No long context.
You can't. There is no video model with such a long context. We are for sure real.
Wouldn't trust too much into that because there are methods. I'm pretty sure that the secret agencies and so on, they have methods to just prolong it. I mean, we can do it if we take the first picture, next picture, and generate and continue.
Sora doesn't allow images of people. So you can do this with VO. VO 3.1 is supposedly coming at some point, but you cannot do this with Sora specifically. But yeah, you can do this with other video models. I want to jump in super quick and chat with our friend here, Eric, about Repo Bench. Eric is here graciously after we have seen them, both Ryan and I, in person. Now I think all of us are back home. Yeah. Eric, welcome. You showed a little bit of Repo Bench, and I really got excited because it's one thing to talk about models. It's completely another thing to know what they're good at. We're here telling us our gut feelings to the world. We would love to hear from you, how you evaluate them, what is special about Repo Bench, and then we'll move on to actually talk about the models that we have.
Yeah, sure. The big challenge I wanted to get at working on Repo Bench was how do I evaluate them in coding environments, but without having to go through the whole process of like, okay, is it writing good code? Because there's a lot of benches that were focused on like how smart it is or how good it is at writing code, but not enough benches that focus on the agentic like code editing, like the part of it, like actually making file changes. And so, Repo Prompt has a lot of these tools built in. And I was like, how do I leverage this to kind of evaluate models? And so what I came up with is a way to generate code. So it generates these code problems and it can scale up in difficulty. So there's more or less noise and the file sizes can vary in size. Okay, yeah, cool. So the benchmark is live. So that one of the cool things about it is that users are running the app and they submit their scores. And it has a real-time ranking. So if a new model comes out and it beats everyone else, like you'll see it very quickly show up on the leaderboard. And the main thing is that bigger models are better at solving the harder problems. So they get much higher scores. And you can see there's like big jumps in scores in there. And the Claude models are at the top because they are the most precise file editors. And that's the thing that is showing up here. GPT-5 models are quite good at doing as well, much better than they used to be. You can see Codex is better at editing code. And there's some variance in the ranges as well.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, sure. So basically, models models are non-deterministic. If you submit a run on a benchmark, you're going to get variance in scores. The same exact prompts will produce different results every time. Sometimes you'll get the same result, but often you won't. The nice thing with this is that people are running it multiple times and you're getting the variance show up. And I take the median score with some filtering to try and get like good representative ranges. And so that's why you're seeing there's ranges there that are showing up. So like some runs will be really, really good, and Gemini 2.5 Pro can be like up there with the rest. But like, you know, if you look at what the consistent scores that you're getting in, it's not as consistently at the top as the other ones are. And that's why it's like lower in the list a little bit.
I want to focus on the user submitted aspect of this. So we have evals that run programmatically, like MMLU, for example, right? There's a questions, you run inference, and then you get a result, you kind of score the result. We also have evals that are kind of like LLM as a judgy things. So you judge the results, and they're a little bit more non-deterministic. There's game evals where folks like running a game, and then there's the UGC type things like LM Arena, for example, and Yup AI, and some of those things. Where would you place Repo Bench across like that gamut of like evals?
I would put it kind of more in the MMLU camp where you're like running an eval on the inference. It's just that like, so I'm a solo founder, right? So I don't have like millions of dollars to run evals. And I figured it would be interesting to kind of put this in the hands of the community. So the app is out there with people using it, and they have access to models I might not be testing, or, you know, they have their own inference, so they can run the benchmark. So yeah, if you update it in the app, just run the update yourself. You pick the model you want to bench, and then head over to the settings there on the top right.
Top right.
That's the update.
Yeah, I got you.
Right under there. And then there's the benchmark right there in the settings on the left bar under model config. So then you can pick your model, you hit run, and then you hit run, it does the testing. And then at the end of all the testing, you'll get a run result, and the user can upload all the runs that they ran. So there's 5 parallel runs happening. They're running different sets of tests that are all around like file editing.
Did the tests come from?
Yes. So the tests are generative code. So like, there's a code generator that will output a bunch of code for each problem, and it comes with a validator. So each problem that's generated with the code will have its own way to validate the results that are output by the model. And so we're able to score them. And if the model gets a perfect score on the test, it will get full points. If it fails, it can get partial marks. But yeah, each task is ranked in difficulty. So if it's a higher difficulty task, it's getting more points.
Looks like we're almost complete. I will just say, Eric, you mentioned that you're a solo founder and you don't have endless capital. And I will just say later in the show, we're going to talk about GPT-5 Pro that was released in the API, and the outputs is what, like $100 for a million tokens, like some ridiculous, something like this. So if you out there,
someone did actually, they did bench it.
No
it's
way.
On the benchmark. Yeah, if you go on the website, you'll see it. Yeah, if you go, on repoprompt.com/bench. It's right there. Yeah, it's in the score. So 68. So the way I'll kind of describe that bench score is that so GPT-5 is a model that for file editing, it's quite good, but not like the best. And so, but it has a lot of variance, GPT-5 as well, because the reasoning like is very noisy and unpredictable. And so you'll get like runs where it'll do very, very well, and you'll get runs where it'll do very poorly. But in GPT-5 Pro, because it's running many instances of GPT-5, you get kind of the best of the scores. And so you're getting a lot of smoothed out variance. So it ends up being better than GPT-5. What I suspect, because Codex is better at this file editing work than GPT-5, I suspect if they did a GPT-5 Codex Pro, it would be really far up the top of the benchmark.
Awesome. Thank you for talking us through how this bench is created. Thanks for creating this like very nice interface for running the benchmark and submitting this and the leaderboard. This is great. We're going to go to official rankings. We're going to take a look at Repo Bench. Folks, Repo Bench is live on the website. Definitely check it out. It's great to add this to another tool to the tool belt of evaluating models. As with this, we're going to move on to last question, Eric, super quick. Which models can I run? Is it like, I see Open Router here. Do you decide what is the list, or can we add models from different inference providers?
You can do whatever you want. You can plug in any API key from any source. As long as it's OpenAI compatible, you can run it.
Let's go. Amazing.
It's pretty easy to just run the bench on your own if you have an API. Because we do need something that's not trained on other people and that's actually used by devs, because this does roughly seem to track pretty well. Also, people were saying that like with much longer, when you max out the reasoning traces of Sonnet 4.5, it starts to go off course.
I've seen people run the bench on Sonnet 4.5 with thinking on different varying levels. It seems to consistently, like, more reasoning tends to work better for Sonnet. The gap between Opus and Opus thinking is very large. Sonnet thinking, it's like some variance. It's not too big. I think it depends on where you're running it. In this test, the context window tries to get squeezed too, but the prompts are concise. I do find it's been doing better with more reasoning on this. So, yeah.
All right, Eric, thank you so much for joining. Feel free to stay because you have been also in Dev Day. We would love to hear from your experience as well. Pretty much sure we covered most of the more important things. Let me run through super quick before we end to see what else is super important we haven't covered, just to tell you. So we have OV video and audio generation. We have a real-time mini we did cover. And then this Bagel thing. I think it's very interesting just from a theoretical perspective. Bagel.com, a company that I haven't heard about before, Paris, it's a decentralized open weight diffusion model. Oh, we haven't covered Grok Imagine yet. Okay, we'll also cover Grok Imagine super quick. This is an open for research and commercial use model. The model consists of 8 expert diffusion models, trained in complete isolation with no gradient parameter or intermediate activation synchronization. This is a very interesting attempt. LDJ, I wanted to hear from you on this, if you read this or got into this. It looks like they came up with MOE for diffusion. That's how I understand it. They trained different diffusion models in different things, completely separated, and then they don't synchronize the gradients. And because of this, they partition data and somehow make it much faster. Lightweight transformer router dynamically selects the appropriate experts in inference, achieving generation quality comparable to centrally coordinated baselines. I just thought it's cool to just give this to you guys, even without super deep dive on it.
Yeah, it does seem interesting. A mixture of experts, architectures, and things of that nature. But I'm going to look more into this. Yeah, it does seem interesting.
Yeah, it's a 4 billion parameter, which is pretty much the same size as the Stable Diffusion was, I think, when it released. And they say compatible to Sora quality with 14x less data and 16x less compute, which I think is what the kind of the innovation here. They built on land dataset, open weights, MIT license, dynamic expert selection via router for inference, which is super, super cool. Let's end on Grok Imagine, because I think there's a big jump here. Grok.com. Let me see if I can log into my Grok and make it so it's safe for all of us to see. Grok has this Imagine tab, and for a while they had this Imagine the return to video. So Grok actually also has tasks, but you go to Imagine and you see this kind of image generated feed, and when you hit this play button, it will turn all of this into video. So here we see this picture of a steampunk type golden mechanical robot fixing a steampunk type golden bird, and we can hit make a video. And when you drop make a video, you have custom, spicy, fun, and normal instructions. We can do custom, and in custom video prompt we say the bird comes alive. It runs fast. I would say runs faster than Sora. Quality is different. There's no people here, so you cannot put yourself. I believe you can upload. Yeah, I believe you can upload an image, because I saw somebody testing it on Will Smith eating spaghetti and comparing it to the famous Will Smith eating spaghetti.
On the model before, you could upload an image for sure and animate it into a video. So I assume also on this one.
Oh yeah, no, you absolutely can upload image. Restrictions are not the strong suit of Grok Imagine. They're not the foot forward of Grok Imagine. And okay, let's take a look at the video that we generated. It was fairly quick, less than a minute.
Just a breaking news: GPT-5 Pro is the new state of the art on Arc AGI 2. Just giving you a brief.
Incredible.
Breaking news. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So we can see the video, and the bird comes alive just as I said, and it kind of flies away. The visual fidelity as well. You guys don't hear the sound, I'm assuming, because I shared the screen, but there's also sound. They add sound and music to every generation, so that's a big upgrade as well. You can see Grok Imagine basically imagines them live. They don't have a diffusion model, if I'm not mistaken, LDJ. They have an autoregressive model, and it's really, really fast in Grok, and you can basically redo the same image multiple times until you get to the video part.
What do you think about the quality?
The quality upgrade in this 09 is significantly improved. It's also, because it's less restricted, you can do a bunch of stuff, as many stuff as you want.
I actually tried all 3 video models. I tested Ovi, I tested Imagine, and I tested Sora 2. And I can say that Sora 2 is my favorite because it follows the prompt and has high quality. Imagine didn't follow my prompt as exactly as the others. And Ovi followed the prompt, but the quality wasn't as good.
Yeah.
But it's a very small model after all, and it's open source.
Yep. And so the last thing to say about Grok Imagine is already very clear online that not only are they not restricting the model for different generations, they're not super safe for us to show you, they're encouraging it. One of the remixes prompts is spicy. And then it shows you a notification, this is 18 plus. Are you 18 plus? And you're like, yes. and then they show you some stuff that, I'm not sure you should be seeing on your feeds unless you're an adult and you want to do that kind of stuff, which is also fine. I know there's a whole open source community dedicated to this, and you can see fine tunes for LoRa's for video models that do all kinds of stuff, including celebrity impersonations. I don't think that a top AI lab should be doing this, but hey, who am I to judge? The thing that disgusted me the most, maybe let me say, I am risking here the fact that, the algorithm on X will never show my content to you ever again. But I have seen this, and I really want to bring this to your attention that this is something that's happening. Grok has this animated character called Annie. And while people complain about, Sora being kind of the slop generator, somebody posted that they now have this engaging mechanic where, yeah, I found it. Unfortunately, I found it. So they have this Annie that obviously is sexualized, but also disengaging mechanic that says, streak, speak every day to make your connection better and earn special rewards. And you get this little icon and you get the process and what you unlock is an outfit. This to me leans into exactly the wrong type of where AI should be going. The fear that everybody has against AI that is going to take over, and and then folks will not leave their house. This leans completely towards that. I met a few folks in OpenAI who are in charge of model responses when people talk about their issues, etc. They're thinking about this consciously. They're preventing any type of nudity. I chatted with sorting prevents any type of water situation. You cannot generate people in bathing suits because they take the whole deep fake, I think, very, very seriously. Teenager thoughts very, very seriously. This is the complete opposite of that. And I, for one, I know where I stand on this issue. I know that this for me is disgusting. Just absolutely disgusting. If you're listening to ThursdAI and you're working on this, I strongly encourage you to reconsider your choices in life. This is bleh. That's it. That's what I wanted to end on the show with. There's more ethical and less ethical shops. But besides this, there's a cool week of AI things. Any last thoughts, folks, from what we just covered? Alrighty, folks, I think we're at the end of our show. If you missed any part of the show is going as a newsletter and a podcast on Thursdays. The newsletter is great for all the links and clicks and that we've collected. The podcast this week is going to be a little bit unique because I will try to weave in the questions that I asked Sam and Greg from the recording as well. And thank you so much for joining, everybody. We're clocking in a little bit less than 4,000 views, which was very, very awesome, considering that the algorithm on X does not like us anymore because we shit on their stuff. If you liked any part of the show, please share it with your friends. And the newsletter is live. With that, thank you. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye, everyone.